Is Jakob Katz, former editor-in-chief of the Jerusalem Post newspaper. And you've also worked in politics, we should say, for the right-wing politician Naftali Bennett. Now, we saw those pictures of the hostages' families storming the Knesset meeting today, furious.
Yeah.
Do you know what they want?
They want their loved ones to come home. Let's remember there's 136 Israelis who are still being held in some dark tunnel. We saw some of those images. They want their loved ones to come back home.
Do you know what they want the government to do? Do you know what they want Netanyahu to do to bring that about?
Well, I think what we have here are two objectives to this war from day one after the Hamas massacre of October 7th. And that is, on the one hand, to degrade Hamas capabilities, to bring down the Hamas regime. We know that the Hamas leadership is still intact, is probably in Khan Yunis, where some of that fierce fighting is taking place. But at the same time, it's to get Israelis home and to get these 136 people, men, women, elderly, sick, and injured, who are still being held, to bring them back. So they want them back, whether it's through military means or it's in a new deal like the one that previously brought back 100 of those Israelis.
But aren't the families aren't saying we want more intense fighting, are they? I mean, they are worried that their relatives are going to be killed as this fighting goes on.
Legitimately so, right? This is a fierce battle. It's an urban warfare, Christian, that no one has ever engaged in the past, right? What we see is the Gaza above ground, but we also see over 500 miles of tunnels underneath Gaza. This, by the way, it's more than the whole London Underground.
But is there another political idea in play is what I'm getting at? You know, does anybody have another idea as to how to get those
I'll tell you, I have a great idea. The idea is give up our people. Give them back to us. They're Israelis. They were taken from their bedrooms and from their homes.
That's an idea for Hamas.
Let them come
I'm talking
back
about
home.
an idea for the Israeli government.
Put down your weapons, stop fighting, and give us back our people. That's the best way to achieve
So there is
peace.
no other idea in play in Israeli politics. Is that what you mean? Because in that case, Netanyahu is strangely safe in his position, isn't he, for a lot of people who oppose him?
Well, I mean, this isn't take out politics for a moment. What you have here is a situation. We have 136 Israelis who are still being held against their will.
I do want to talk about the politics of it. Because that conversation is a circular conversation we have a lot. I want to talk about the future of Netanyahu and what this means for him.
So I'll get to that. But Netanyahu can make a deal if the Qataris, they're the best mediator, they're the ones who mediated the prior deal, if they're able to bring Hamas to agree to some swap. Israel has said, we're willing to release some more of those Palestinian prisoners, the Hamas terrorists who were captured on October 7th and October 8th, others who have been held in Israeli prisons. Israel's willing to pay a very steep price to get back its people. We've shown that over time in prior swaps that were done by the country.
But you've written, and I've seen you writing about sort of what the political strategy should be for those who oppose Netanyahu, and that's what I want to get at, because the current situation kind of sees people uniting around him. You know, as long as he can make this about fighting Hamas, he is safe, even though it was his administration, under his administration, that attack on October the 7th happened. That massive failure of intelligence and of the defense force, for which many people blame him.
A colossal failure that is going down in Israeli history as one of the greatest blunders and strategic blindness that a country could suffer from.
So how do people like the man you worked for get him out?
Well, they're all kind of figuring that out as we speak. But I think that what we're seeing, you're starting to see, and that's what you saw at the Knesset, the Israeli parliament today, you're starting to see the beginnings of that public uproar. There will be mass protests, unlike, I think, anything we've seen before in Israel. Once the war winds down, more reservists, there's still tens of thousands who are called up, they will come back home, and they're likely to lead some of those protests. And people are going to call for Netanyahu to pay that political price and to go home. Naftali Bennett, Yair Lapid, Benny Gantz, a lot of these other politicians are there waiting in the wing, and they want to try to take over the government if there's going to be a new election.
Well, what do you think the effect of the kinds of images that we saw in that report there of the hospital in Khan Yunis is on the Israeli public? Do they see those images, or do they tend to just pay attention to the images of the tunnels that we saw in that report?
Israelis, of course, see those images, Christian, and they break our heart. There is a tragedy that is unfolding in Gaza. It's there, and we know about it. But the question is not about whether we see him and what we feel about him. It's who's to blame for him. And who's to blame for him, again, is Hamas. Hamas, who embeds itself in civilian infrastructure, who hides behind those
political argument.
people.
I'm asking you about the human reaction.
But it's not a political argument, because that's the reality. We can't run away from the reality. You know, earlier today, I was at a luncheon by the Conservative Friends for Israel. You had the Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak, who was there, and spoke about how the United Kingdom stands with Israel and its right to act in self-defense and to take down Hamas. It's in everyone's interest. It's in Israel's interest. It's in the Palestinians' interest that this terror group, which has a hold over the people of Gaza, is taken away.
Thank you very much, Lee, for coming in. Yeah.
Thank you.